What is up, my fellow Chibits? Today, I'm here to bring all of you the weekly Tokyo Ghoul video. This time, once again, another review. Because many of you seem to appreciate last week that I did a review. And so, since I listen to you guys and I love you guys, once again, I'm going to be doing another review instead of a live reaction. And so, yeah, if you're looking forward to a live reaction, it's not happening. I just want to do a quick clarification on that. There will be no live reaction video for this week's chapter. It's just going to be mainly me sitting down, discussing, analyzing, and reviewing the latest chapter, chapter 129 of Tokyo Ghoul. So with that being said, let's start off with this cover. So this cover page, or I guess the color cover page, very, very nice. Like, I just want to comment that it looks really nice. Great illustration by Ishida. And I like, the way Suzuka looks. I don't know if it'll be thumbnail or not, but it's a really nice color page, though. It looks really good. I like the coloring on the shirt and all that with the blood. Just a nice illustration overall. So with that being said, let's move over into the actual content from the chapter. So, basically, let's quickly get this simple part out of the way first, like the first part, like the first page, and then I'll get into the big stuff from the chapter. So, the end of last week's chapter carries over into the beginning of this chapter. Ayato, he's looking down at this ruined city that's on the bottom of the 24th Ward. And as we know from last week's chapter, it was revealed that the One-Eyed King, the original, quote-unquote, the original One-Eyed King, like the one that was toppling all of humanity, drove humanity into a corner, and then, this was like one of the strongest ghouls of all time, and then eventually because of that CCG was formed. Well, basically that ghoul is still alive. That's what we kind of found out in, last chapter. And so Ayato, he's going underground, deep underground, trying to find, the one-eyed ghoul or some, I guess, part of this being or whatever might be left of him still down there to get any advice or help or whatever. And so Ayato's tasked with going down here, and he's searching out for anybody that could be down this low. And so Ayato's looking around, and we see this ruined city. Now, we don't get to see a whole lot here. We just get to see kind of the landscape. That's it. And even then, when we get to see the landscape, there's not a whole lot of the landscape we get to see. The only thing we get from this is that it is like ruined skyscrapers, according to here. It says, the skeletons of skyscrapers long abandoned. Now, we don't know what this means. Does it mean that nobody lives here anymore? Which I doubt that, because there's actually people in these first couple pages that are hidden on the panels, which I'll talk about. But basically with this, it says skyscrapers. So this confirms the fact that these buildings down here, they're like our buildings, buildings we have in modern day, Japan, America, whatever, wherever you live, modern day skyscrapers. That's what's down here. And I'm going to assume that this structure down below, deep in the 24th Ward, is probably modeled very similar to what's up above and all that, maybe Tokyo. And I was thinking of something about this entire part, like, what could this be named? What could this city be named? And it clicked in my mind. Think about what this series is called. Tokyo Ghoul. Underground city, skyscrapers, all of that, obviously has to have a name, or used to have a name. It might be modeled after the city up above. What's to say that this city isn't a title drop? The city could be called Tokyo Ghoul. Think about it. I mean, ghouls, in actually myth and legends, ghouls live underground. They lived in crypts and stuff. And you can consider the 24th Ward like a crypt. It's deep underground and all that. That's where ghouls spawn and, myths and legends. And so, deep underground, ghouls fits underground segment. Tokyo, modeled after Tokyo or a city in Japan or something. So, Tokyo Ghoul. Fits. I feel like that's where Ishida's taking this. I feel like that's what Ishida's probably going to name this city. Tokyo Ghoul. Anyways, though, let's talk about the buildings, architecture, and all that. It seems like it has power. If I'm correct, I see some form of power pole, or light pole, or whatever, that's on the side of a building. So there is a potential possibility there is electricity down here, which shows that at the very least, it's modern. It's very, very modern. At least upgraded to the point with a lot of electricity, power poles and stuff like that. We don't know if it's still running, but clearly there was a lot of construction down here for a very long time. And, I mean, stuff like this isn't built in just a day. It's not. It's not just built in a day or even a couple of months. It would take so many years, decades, to build something like this. And what better way is that the One-Eyed King is still alive, or his descendants or whatever. So, that's probably what's happening here. Anyways, though, let's carry on to the next page. So, Ayato, he gets informed that apparently there's some form of human presence underground, and it's really weird that that's stated. For instance, human presence, because there shouldn't be any, humans living under here, unless some of them are working with the ghouls or whatever, which, that's a possibility. We don't know exactly what's going on in the 24th ward. They probably know a shit ton of information, because they keep to themselves, they're very reclusive and all that, so they might know so much information that we're unaware of, and if the One-Eyed King is still alive, just imagine how, much knowledge this One-Eyed King must have. So, when you think about it like that, it makes a lot of sense. Most likely that there could possibly be humans down there, maybe working with the One-Eyed King, constructing these buildings or whatever, who knows, or maybe there's human presence because they're being bred and raised to be food for the ghouls down there. That's also a potential possibility, because we don't know exactly how these ghouls are surviving, and the main point Ayato came down here in the first place is not just to seek help from the One-Eyed King, but also to seek food, because right now all the ghouls are starving. Without food, you can't have a war effort. It's not going to happen. So there needs to be a food, situation handled. Like, that needs to be handled before anything can be done. And so it's kind of like our One-Eyed King, Kaneki, is trying to communicate with the previous One-Eyed King to make a relationship for there can be some form of food between each other. So, yeah. Anyways, though, on the bottom panel of page 5, if you're counting, the color pages and all that, and the fan color pages, it's technically page 2? Yeah, it's page 2, if you're not counting the illustration at the front. On the bottom panel, the last panel with Ayato, before it switches over to Toka, you have it to where you see Ayato's group off in the distance, like in the background of the page. And then you see in the foreground, you see like what appears to be like trees or structure or whatever. Maybe a hole in a skyscraper, we don't exactly know. But if you look very closely to the left and the right of the panel, look very closely, you will see the shape of people. You'll see a shape of a person on the left and the shape of a person on the right. The one on the right obviously has some form of hood on. You can see some form of hood, and it looks like maybe hair's coming out on the side there on the right side. On the left side, it looks like there is no hood, and it's just someone's hair. Long hair, to be exact. So there is definitely people watching Ayato, and that's the scary part about this, because think about what was just stated here. They sense a presence, traces of, humans and all that. But then there's obviously people watching them. You can clearly see even the shadows of them in the foreground. So for them to be watched and they can't sense them, see them, whatever, something's strange and off about this. I mean, these ghouls are masters probably of hiding themselves since they've been underground for so long, so they probably have a few techniques to avoid being detected or whatever, but still, it's just like for Ayato and them not to catch wind of their scent or whatever, definitely something crazy. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. There's clearly people watching Ayato's group, so this could be either a good thing or a bad thing, but we'll see where that goes. Anyways, moving over to Toka. So this is the stuff that is very important with this chapter. And so I'm kind of going to be talking about this and also the final part of the chapter at the same time to just get Toka's stuff out of the way. So we move over to Toka's perspective after Ayato. Toka actually sits down in this room by herself. Nobody's around to see what she is doing. And you can see that she's probably in a bathroom because of the last page. Well, basically, she sits down, you can see how she takes a deep breath, she pulls up the bag that, she was given in the last chapter, and many of us were theorizing what could be in this bag. A pregnancy test, RC cell suppressants and all that. I mean, could it be, other random things that we never expected? I mean, we had no idea. But what was in this was something that, honestly, I don't think any of us probably saw coming. And I want to hand it to Ashita, because I honestly didn't expect this outcome, and it's not something I necessarily expected Toka to try to do in the first place. And it was always there in front of her face, it's just not something I clearly thought was going to be possible. And so Toka, when she picks up the bag, she reveals a burger. And by the way, before I get into talking about symbolism, meaning, and all that, oh my god, Ashita, that fucking burger looks nice. Like, I'm not even joking. When I saw this burger, I wanted to head to either Wendy's, McDonald's, whatever, to pick me up a burger, because that looked freaking good. It looks so good. I don't know if the man drew that personally, or if he just scanned it or whatever, but it's a nice looking burger. Like, oh my god, that is a nice burger. That's a good fucking art. Like, no joke, I might even make that the thumbnail just because of how good that looks. Like, I'm not even shitting you. It looks that fucking good. So, anyways, Toka shows that it is a hamburger, and we don't know necessarily if this is like a fast food burger, if this is a homemade burger, which I'll get into that later on into this Toka segment. But for now, though, Toka showcases a burger which is for human consumption. And as we know, she's a ghoul. She can't eat human food. That's the whole point of the series of Tokyo Ghoul. We know this for a fact. Like, ghouls cannot eat human food. They vomit. They throw it up. They can't handle it. Their body doesn't want it. It rejects that food. They can't really break it down properly. And so this is something that goes against everything that is a ghoul. Now, we understand that someone that's a human being eating man meat, they could do that. Because, yes, it's fucked up on so many levels, mentally and all that, but we can digest human meat. That's just how regular humans are as well. So, yes, it's fucked, but that's a possibility. But ghouls, and what we know of ghouls, them trying to devour regular food, that's just like, whoa, like, that's going, like far, like, trying to eat that, because that's something we never thought was going to be possible, or Toka trying to do in the first place. So, there's obviously a parallel here with Eto's mother and Toka now. There's a parallel here. For instance, Eto's mother, she took it upon herself to eat human meat. Now remember, Eto's mother was, a human, and then Eto's father, Yoshimura, was a ghoul. And they fell in love, and then they had Eto. And remember, Eto wasn't going to be able to be born if Eto's mother didn't consume human meat. So she took it upon herself to devour human meat, which honestly is taboo and fucked up for a human to do, but she did it anyways for her child, what a mother would do for their child. And that is what Toka is doing. It's a parallel to that, but she's doing the exact opposite. Instead of eating human meat, she's eating something that's taboo for her race. For instance, regular food, hamburgers, or anything. She's eating something that normal you shouldn't eat in the first place. But with Eto's mother's case, she could still digest that and be fine. But in this case, Toka's not gonna be fine, because this is not something her body can handle, which I'll talk about too. So she tries to eat this, and I want to kind of scroll to the final page to talk about, because then I'll get into the other stuff. Basically, she tries to eat it, and she remembers Kaneki. Like, she remembers Kaneki asking Kaneki, so whatever happened to the manager's daughter? Like, how was she conceived? And basically, Kaneki tells the story of how Eto's mother, actually had her in the first place. And Kaneki's like, oh, she had to eat human meat for the child. She did what, the child needed. And so, obviously, Toka's doing that exact same thing. She's taking upon herself to give the child inside of her, which she'd basically confirmed that Toka is pregnant, by the way. 100% confirmed. Basically, she's doing that for her child. And so, she is now eating burgers and all of that for the child can survive inside of her. And while she does this, she's like, make it through, make it through, make it through. She's telling herself, make it through. And she's also telling her child probably inside of her, make it through. And she's like, please, don't die. Like, she's telling her child that, and probably herself that. But then she's also saying my insides, which also can apply to the child or her as well. Because with her eating this food, it's gonna fuck up her insides completely. But also, there's still a possibility that this might not even work in the first place, and the child could still die inside of her. So, it's suffering. It's suffering. It's clear, outright suffering for Toka right now, because she's doing something that obviously she is suffering for. Like, she's doing something that's making her feel so much pain. She wants to vomit, and I want to go into that and talk about that. So let me pull up the wiki page here of technically what ghouls experience when they eat human food, just to give some clarification, also remind everyone if you've forgotten. So, a diet of a ghoul. I have the wiki page pulled up. A ghoul can only feed on humans and other ghouls. They are unable to digest any other type of food due to a particular enzyme their bodies produce. The structure of their tongues are also different from humans, making other food taste disgusting and uncomfortable. If ghouls try to eat normal food, they will be struck by a powerful urge to vomit. They want to throw up, which that's what Toka is doing in the final page. Let me go over to the page and show you. She's leaning up against the wall. You clearly see she's in a bathroom stall. You see a toilet to her left, so she's obviously leaning over a toilet. And it seems like she just doesn't want to throw up. Like, she feels like she wants to throw up. She has that urge to throw up, but she doesn't want to throw up. She's keeping it inside of her for the baby can survive. And that's why she's like, make it through, make it through, make it through. She's forcing herself to keep it down, but she's right next to the toilet because she might throw up regardless. So that's why she is there. So the urge to throw up, that explains that right there. Anyways, when forced or forcing themselves to digest such food, human food, it will degrade their physical condition. While ghouls cannot eat normal food, they are able to drink coffee. They are also able to drink plain water, which explains the bottles of water on the ground around Toka. She is drinking just plain water. She has a bunch of water around her, which kind of explains that. She just has regular water she is drinking just to try to keep the food down. Now, talking about another thing we need to look at is the other clarification of what happens if a ghoul eats, human food. Ghouls become vulnerable if forced to consume a sufficient amount of normal food, which will weaken their physical condition and possibly make them vulnerable to man-made objects such as guns, knives, swords, etc. RC suppressants have a similar effect. So what Toka is doing to herself right now is basically what RC cell suppressants do. For instance, make it to where your body can get destroyed by regular means, get cut through or whatever. So Toka is inflicting harm to her body. And this is not good. With her having to eat human food, like if this does work, okay? Let's go on a limb here and say this works. It can work. The fact of the matter stands is Toka is fucking her health up so much that there is a possibility she will die because of this. And if she doesn't die, it does not matter. While she is doing this, she's at the point to where she can't do anything. She is so weakened that she probably won't be able to do anything, probably walk or anything. She'll just have to focus on the baby's health, just eating the food for the baby. So these upcoming 9 months of pregnancy are going to be absolute hell for Toka. It's going to be probably the worst thing she could possibly ever imagine. Because if her body is going to be weakened to that extent, okay, having to eat that much human food, anybody can mess with Toka. Even a regular human being could probably kill Toka. Come up and just slaughter her because she'll be that weakened by what she is doing right now. So, that's not good. That is not good at all. So, Kaneki's going to have to protect his waifu. He's going to have to protect Toka quite a bit, because if he doesn't, she's going to die. If she doesn't die by eating what she's eating now. So, it's not looking too good. It's not. But regardless, suffering still. She's going to be suffering for a good long while because of the child inside of her. Now, what this does confirm, however, is that Kaneki's biology, he is technically a human. So, Ashita confirms that at the very least. Kaneki is a human. Even though he is a half-ghoul, he still produces human kids. So, it's not going to be easy for Toka at all. So, may she quickly overcome this, and maybe it won't be bad for her. Maybe something will happen, and she'll be able to survive, and also the child will be able to survive, but who knows? This is Tokyo Ghoul, so I don't know. I mean, this is Ashita as well. I mean, he likes seeing characters suffer, so maybe this is like his torture for Toka, letting her suffer for 9 months, just suffering through eating this type of food. Who knows? So, besides all of that, though, with that being said, Toka, oh my god, like, I feel bad for her. I feel really bad for her, because that's a bad fate. She's gonna be in hell. She's gonna be in hell for a while. Also, this kind of confirms that Kaneki is aware of Toka being pregnant, too. With that conversation with Toka talking to Kaneki, it's kind of like saying Kaneki is aware of the child, and that explains why he is actively trying to help the world out. So that is confirmed now. That's officially confirmed thanks to this chapter. So Toka is indeed pregnant, but she doesn't need to say she's pregnant. It's obvious. You have to literally be blind and not able to read to not understand that she's pregnant now. But also, talking with Kaneki implies that Kaneki is aware of it, and it's not being hidden from him. But Kaneki might not be telling his close friends because of Tsukiyama's reaction in last chapter. Kaneki could be keeping it to himself, which makes a lot of sense, because even though I don't think Tsukiyama would probably do anything now, he's changed quite a bit, he has matured as a person, there's others that might try some shady and awful shit to Toka, probably attack her, because if they attack her, they technically attack Kaneki. They attack him, and it hurts him. So, they have to kind of keep this under wraps, or Kaneki has to keep this under wraps, so nobody finds out that Toka is severely weakened. And not just weakened, but the fact that she has a child inside of her, because if anyone finds out about that, they're going to want to kill Toka, or kill the child inside of her. So, yeah, that's why Kaneki is probably keeping it to himself, or keeping it on the down low only for certain individuals to be aware of this. Even Nishiki doesn't seem like he's aware of it at all, so, yeah, want to point that out. Anyways, last thing to talk about of the Toka situation is this final message here. Just like the food her friend Yoriko made her, the food she did her best to bite into. So many might interpret this, there's like two interpretations you can take this. Many might interpret that Yoriko is the one that got Toka this burger. For instance, this burger that she is now eating, or the food she's going to be eating. Many might think that's how she got this food. Nishiki got it from Yoriko and all that, and that is why, Toka's, willing to eat this. If there's one thing she's willing to eat, it's probably human food from Yoriko. And so, it's implied here that maybe Yoriko is making food for Toka. Now, if it's not that, it could just be a regular fast food or something that Nishiki got to give to Toka. It's one or the other. But I'm going on a limb here to think it's Yoriko making the food, because Toka knows that Yoriko knows how to cook. Toka is very aware of this. In the younger days of Toka's life, when she was going to school, we even saw scenes with this, Toka was delivered food by Yoriko, her best friend, and Yoriko was like, oh, here you go, eat this and all that, and Toka would eat it. Even though she can't eat it, she would still eat it in front of her because she cared for her friend deeply. So, she has experience with eating human food, but also she really respects Yoriko. And so, I feel like because of her respect towards Yoriko, knowing Yoriko can make good food, I feel like that's the only food she would want her child to have. And so, that's probably what's led Yoriko to be in the position she's at right now, is because of her giving food to Toka. So, yeah. I just wanted to point that out. Now, like I said, I don't know if Yoriko is doing that or not. She could be, she couldn't be. I don't know. I have no idea. But that's what I think is being implied here in this chapter. So now we move over into Furuta and Takeyomi's convo. So Furuta calls Takeyomi into his office, like, hey, Takeyomi, you'll make a fine investigator. You can definitely lead CCG into the future because you have a great, record. You're someone that has showcased loyalty. You're just a very good person. And so Furuta's praising Takeyomi and all that. But then Furuta's like, okay, but before that, let's review one thing. He's like, you remember, one of the main things about CCG, right? Article 88, Section 1. And then Takeyomi's like, yeah, persons harboring or otherwise preventing the arrest of other ghouls will be severely punished. This is something that's popped up constantly throughout this series. And so, Takeyomi is like, so it says. It's a simple idea, really. Now, Furuta's like, having made that clear, let's take a little walk. So he's like calling Takeyomi, like, okay, so now that you understand this law and all that, let's take a walk. Let's, you come with me. Well, let's, see what you want to do about this and all that. Eventually, he takes him to Yoriko. Now, before I get into that, let's talk about what's happening in these panels behind the scenes. So, on the Toka page, when Toka's, before she's about to bite into the food, okay? It's page 7 if you're counting all the color pages and stuff. But, you see on the bottom of the page, Takeyomi walking into Furuta's office. And on the bottom of the floor, as always, I talked about this in last week's chapter review, the floor represents, the checkerboard symbolism, the white king, black king, and all that, and with the one-eyed king, and then also the dragon being introduced as, like, a new board that's been added. But someone added something very interesting in the comments, which I want to kind of talk about. Someone stated in last week's chapter that maybe it's not a new board that was added with Dragon or the One-Eyed King being around, but maybe those two characters that are being introduced are actually the queens of the represented king. Since we know Dragon is going to be on Furuta's side, that means that could possibly be his queen. While the One-Eyed King, the old One-Eyed King, possibly joining Kaneki, could also be Kaneki's queen. Like his queen piece, a part of his, group. So that's pretty cool when you think about it like that, how someone brought it up. Who knows? Maybe that's the interpretation of it, which I like that. That's why I love reading comments from you guys, because you guys have some really cool things you guys come up with. But anyways, though, talking about the checkerboard symbolism, let's look at, once again, the office, the flooring of this office where Furuta is, but also Takeyomi. I want everybody to take a quick look at where Furuta is in the background. If you look at his desk, he's sitting down and all that. He has this black suit on, represents the Black King, but on his desk, if you look very closely, you see kind of like a black diamond. It's almost shaped like a black diamond, which once again showcases Black King. Now look on the flooring, and look where Takeyomi is. It looks like he's on a black diamond, which would say like he's on Furuta's side at that given moment from this angle. You're like, okay, so he's a part of the Black King side, which makes sense because he's a part of CCG. But then go to the next page. Furuta's like, come take a walk with me. And then we get, an up panel, like where we see the entire flooring. It's like we're on the roof and we're looking down at the entire scene. You see Takeyomi in the white, diamond, but also the black diamond, or the square. He's in the white square and black square. And he's between these. He's definitely between the black and white. And what I think is going on here is actually symbolic for the side that Takeyomi is on. For instance, he was probably on, you know, the Black King's side, Furuta's side, but after what's about to happen, he can go to either side, which perfectly represents why he's on the black and white square, or actually he's on 2 white squares and 2 black squares. So he's like in between all of this. So he can go any direction right now. That means he could flip to either side. He could become a turncoat at any moment, thanks to what Furuta is about to do to him. So there's definitely some symbolism going on here that I wanted to point out that's, you know, currently ongoing with Takeyomi, because we do know that Yoriko, she would definitely join hands with Toka, like that. We know she cares deeply for Toka. Even if Yoriko is innocent or not innocent, we know Yoriko would definitely help out Toka regardless. Even if she knew Toka was a ghoul, she would help her out. So we know for a fact that might put Takeyomi in a spot where either he will betray his loved one, someone he loves, or he will become a turncoat and go to the White King's side, which is Kaneki. So yeah, wanted to point that out real quick. Anyways, moving into the next page, we shift over into Tsukiyama. So Tsukiyama and Ko have a quick moment. Ko is revealed to be an Noga Spy, which was very obvious. And I don't think Ishida was really trying hard to avoid that conclusion. I feel like, knowing Ishida and how he has been as a writer, if he really wanted to hide it, we wouldn't have known. So I feel like he had tended us to find out rather quickly, since he was revealing it this soon. So it's revealed that Ko is an Noga Spy. He was there to get information, whatever, and he was playing with the computers and all that, like their software network, and he was trying to install something most likely into the computers, because he has a flash drive. You can clearly see right there that, you know, Tsukiyama stops him from putting in. So he was going to do something. Either it was you know, going to reveal their location to where they're at, or he's going to hack their files, figure out what they're doing. It's something. Regardless, though, Tsukiyama stops that, which, good man Tsukiyama stepping in and playing a good role. So he steps in, he's like, "My dear Ko, you handsome boy, I'm afraid you cannot use our network without permission." And then Ko responds, "I'm sorry, I just really wanted to watch Pikakin." Now, apparently from the translation note, there is a famous Japanese YouTuber named Hikakin. Now, I personally have no idea who that is, but I find that very funny that something like that was added into this chapter, because you know what this confirms? This confirms that Ishida is at the very least aware of YouTube, or YouTubers, and I'm very curious. I'm very curious, because some of the things that are said in this, I wonder, I really wonder. We know mangaka do watch YouTube videos. We've seen it in the past. There's other big, you know, YouTubers that have been noticed by mangaka. So, I wonder if Ishida's implying anything here. But it's funny, though, when he's, like, trying to hide, like, oh, he's just trying to watch this YouTuber, and Tsukiyama is like, just looks at him, and then, you know, Ko's just trying to walk off. He's like, "I'll be going then." He tries to pass Tsukiyama, and Tsukiyama just tries to nail him. And then all of a sudden, he's like, "And whatever would you do after looking at such a thing?" He's asking Ko. And, he's like, "Laugh?" And for instance, like, laugh at the YouTube or whatever. And then Tsukiyama's like, "Kids should be, shown much more interesting things than that, don't you think?" So I don't know if Ishida is implying something about YouTubers or whatever, or it's just a funny gag from just that person. I don't know the YouTuber personally. I don't know the content or anything, but it's just funny. It's funny to see Ishida acknowledge YouTubers at the very least. So, getting into the main point of this part, though, Tsukiyama, he attacks Ko. He's like, "You're obviously doing some shady shit," and then you see a fight just break out and all that. And then Tsukiyama stabs this man, just stabs him twice. He cuts him on one side and stabs him through his leg. And then he's like, "I am not as soft as my king. Answer me, who are you?" Just like, yo, my boy Tsukiyama kicking some fucking ass. Like, oh my god, my boy Tsukiyama just wrecking people. Even though he's probably not eating properly, it's just nice to see this man wreck some people. And he just wrecked Ko like that. He's like, "Just get the fuck out of here, boy." He just pushed him to the side and all that. Just completely ruined this man. And then all of a sudden the boy's like, "I'll show you something too. Something interesting." And we see his one eye pop up, which confirms that he's an O guy. And then it's confirmed as it continues, he opened up another eye, frame B, quote unquote. So it shows that there has definitely been a lot of changes to the QS surgery, or the O-Guy surgery, which is clarified now. And with these changes, it shows that they have more ways to manipulate probably RC cell levels and stuff. It's not exactly clarified, but definitely the Ogai are way more superior than the QS. We don't know if these Ogai can eat regular, food or not, like just eat regular burgers and stuff, or if they have to consume people. For them to have both eyes activated and all that, there's definitely a lot of RC cells there, which makes me wonder, does that mean that the Ogai, they have a perfect control over their body of what they can consume? Who knows? Maybe that'll be revealed very soon. Anyways, though, Tsukiyami's thrown off balance. He's like, whoa, a 2-eye? He's like, 1 eye, a 2-eye. And when he realizes that, the Kagane is actually very similar to Kanaki's. Because as we know, Rize's been experimented on all that. First has been using her, and so we do know that's why. We already understand how this has happened, but this confirms now that all the Ogai that, have their Kagane now, they have Rize's, Kagane inside them, or Kakuho, so that's why they're able to use something very similar to Kaneki. So they have, very similar abilities and traits like Kaneki has. So yeah, while that happens, though, Squad Zero pops up, and they kind of immobilize Ko. He's completely put out of action. And I want to point something out real quick, because many might not have realized this isn't something very subtle that is obvious now, when you think about it. If you notice, the people that stopped Ko from causing any havoc or hurting people was Squad Zero, which technically they can eat regular food. They don't need to live off of, ghoul or human meat. So this lets us know that Ko, the only reason why he was stopped was thanks to them. Tsukiyama most likely couldn't have stopped Ko at all. He probably couldn't have, because the ghouls are facing a crisis right now. They're not eating properly, so they cannot use their Kagane properly, use Kakuja properly. It's not a good state for any of them right now. So it's impressive enough for Tsukiyama to do what he already did in this chapter, but it's just probably not possible for any ghoul right now to win, and that's why Squad Zero had to step up and step in, because they have a lot of, experience with fighting ghouls and using, their Quinke to fight with. So that explains why they had to stop him instead of Tsukiyama. So it just once again shows how bad the state of starvation is for all of these ghouls. Anyways, with him popping up, it shows how serious Hirako is to protect Kaneki. This was a very stunning moment. I mean, we know Hirako had a lot of loyalty to Arima. He cared for Arima, but we also now know he has a lot of loyalty for Kaneki, because Arima's dying legacy was Kaneki. Just these eyes that Hirako shows. It's eyes of a serious man, someone that's very serious. And he's like, tell us why you are here or lose your head. He's like, I'm willing to just kill you right now if you do not tell me. Hiriko's serious expression just shows that this man, he's not dealing with any shit. He's protecting the one he cares about, and also the legacy of Arima. So that's cool. I like seeing that expression from Zero Squad and also Hirako, just showing that he's very loyal to Kaneki and he'll do anything for him. So, besides talking about the QS surgery and the Ogai surgery, how it's very different, we shift over to Kaneki finding out, getting the information on what Ko was doing. And basically here is that, there's a funny moment I actually want to talk about. Tsukiyama has his shirt off, and one of the Squad Zero kids are like, whoa, you're macho. That shit's funny. That's fucking funny. They're like, looking over Tsukiyama. He's like, and they're like, whoa, you're macho. Tsukiyama's chest is like, that's fucking funny. It's little scenes like that, it's so good. Just the way that was said. So, Tsukiyama, he's macho. This man isn't all just Kagane, all that, or a pretty suit and pretty boy. He's macho as fuck. Okay, jokes aside, though, moving on to the serious stuff. Kaneki is bleeding from his eye. I want to point that out. Page 16, top right panel. Kaneki, when he has this, rag or whatever, you see blood, obviously, coming out of his right eye. That shows that his body is not in a good state. For instance, he's probably not eating properly or whatever, so he's straining himself. That's not good. So he needs food. A lot of them need food. And knowing Kaneki, he might be going without. He might be going without food. He could possibly be feeding the citizens, his people, over himself, since he wants to be a good king, a good role model now, because of what he's trying to do and what he's doing for Toka and the child he has. That's probably what he's doing. He's probably not eating well. He's probably giving everybody else food while he's probably going without, which would explain his condition with the blood and all that. So, just want to point that out. Kaneki probably cannot fight like someone like Ko right now because he's so weakened. But, I mean, who knows? Kaneki has a lot of experience with fighting in hand-to-hand combat. That's what the entire part of Tokyo Ghoul Re was about, like the beginning part of the series, was learning how to fight with just, Quinkeis or physical combat and stuff. So, maybe still stands a chance, but clearly it shows that he's not probably eating properly at all. Anyways, though, it is also revealed that Ko, he was someone that was put into the academy and all that. He was one of the type of people that lost his parents. His parents are gone. Very similar to a lot of the people in this series. And he was also given some of the training similar to how some of the children are in Squad Zero and also the Sunlit Garden. So, yeah, this man, Ko, is not someone to be underestimated. Someone very strong, someone that could easily kick someone's ass. Okay, so I want to show you this next part in Tokyo Ghoul, not Tokyo Ghoul Re, but Tokyo Ghoul Volume 2's volume. The reason why I want to show you this is because something was pointed out to me, and I don't want to take credit for it because I didn't discover it. It's just so many just mention it. I'm like, you know what, I gotta mention this for anyone that did not notice it just to get the information out there. So, it was recently came to a lot of people's attention that Ko, the kid that, was an orphan and all that, is actually this kid right here. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it here. I'll zoom it in and out for you. The quality of the camera can vary. But I'll zoom it in and out. You can pause the screen if you need to, but here it is. This page right here is Ko in this chapter, or in the last couple chapters. The orphan kid and all that. And then you see it to where Almond, he sees it. So, yeah. It's kind of crazy when you think about it like that, how much the artwork has changed, but also just the message here. So, I want to kind of read this from this part of the chapter and all that, of Tokyo Ghoul, Volume 2. I want to read this part when Ko was first introduced. He says, basically, Armado talks to Almond, and he's like, you're someone that can light fire in people. You're someone that's going to be able to light fire in someone like that. Be a good influence on a lot of people for the future. And so I feel like maybe what this is trying to say here, what is she just trying to imply with this foreshadowing besides the character's introduction, but he might be implying that Ko could become a good guy. Maybe become a turncoat as well. Join Kaneki's side because of Almond stepping in and talking to him. Who knows? So, I just wanted to point that out. So anyways, I don't take credit for the discovery of Ko being introduced, but I wanted to talk about also what the meaning of that scene could be too. The early introduction. So anyways, with that out of the way, let's talk about the next stuff. So the next thing to talk about is the message that Mutsuki gives Kaneki, because you can see how it starts off. Dear Sensei. Obviously, that is Mutsuki sending Kaneki a letter. So, while the letter is being read by Kaneki, we see the events of what's going on with Takeyomi and Yoriko. Yoriko is in an interrogation room. She's surrounded by CCG employees. You have it to where Aura's there. You have it to where Mutsuki's there. A couple other investigators. And then we have, Furuta walking up behind Takeyomi. Basically, she's being investigated right now, and she's probably guilty, because we know how Mutsuki is and also how Furuta is. They basically know she's guilty. And if they want to, they could probably kill her anyways, because they can get away with murder. I mean, look what they've been doing with Ogai and all that. They can probably kill random people and be fine. They just say, oh, that person's a ghoul, and they can get away with it. So, that's just the situation they're currently in right now. It's a dictatorship. Anyways, the message says, Yoriko Kosaka has been imprisoned for violation of the Countermeasures Act. For instance, harboring or knowing who a ghoul is and not saying anything. She is a former classmate of Toka's. It's all a bit difficult to explain, so I've included a copy of the incident's file. So we don't exactly see the incident's file, but what's given is kind of the entire thing that went down. Like, everything that's going on with Yoriko, whatever she did, the entire file was given to Kaneki. Mutsuki gave the file to him for he could understand what Yoriko is going through. And so, and stay like this. That should help you get a good idea of what's going on. As for the authenticity of this letter, or why I would even write something like this in the first place, one reason. If we're going to do something, I'll join you. I find it very funny that when she says something like that, that seems so against what Mutsuki is as a person, what she's been doing, the background's black. I think that represents the Black King. As I've been saying, for it is the Black King. I want to point this out real quick. If you're going to do something, I'll join you. Black background. Let's read the next panel that's solid black. I want to fight for you. Black background. Black King. Think about that. Anyways, let me continue what she's saying. I want to join you. I will admit that I was rather disturbed when we last met, but I still respect you very much. We know that's truth. I want to fight for you. Black background, obviously probably a lie. Most likely Black King, Furuta, and all that. I'd wager the people important to the people closest to you are important to you too, right? So, like, Toka's closest friends are also close to you, and you care for them because Toka cares about them. That's what Mutsuki's trying to imply, which is truth as well. That's probably truth. From the 12th to the 17th, I will wait at the chateau every night at 9 p.m. Sending this letter to you itself is a grave crime. Its weight should be proof enough of my sincerity. Now, in this part, I don't think is a lie. Now, there's definitely a mix of lies here. There is definitely some lies throughout this entire thing. And then on the bottom with the white, I want to point this out too, why I got the message here of, like, you know, the black background that for definitely, obviously, the Black King. Look when Toka says, believe me, Toru Mutsuki, solid white background. Think about this, okay? If you're going to do something, I'll join you. Black background, Furuta. I want to fight for you. Black background, Furuta. White background, believe me, Toru Mutsuki. So at that moment, what that represents is that Mutsuki is on Kaneki's side. But she has a twisted and warped viewpoint of it, which we're aware of. So when she says, I want to fight for you, she doesn't want to fight for what your message is, or whatever. She wants to save you or have you selfishly, but she doesn't want to fight for whatever you're fighting for. If you're going to do something, I'll join you. She doesn't want to help Kaneki out and help him do whatever he's doing. She doesn't want to join him. She doesn't want to be friends with Toka. She wants to do her own selfish things, which also represents the black background. So it may not be Furuta dabbing his hands in this, but it's definitely for his side. While the white background is obviously for Kaneki's side. So yeah. Now, discussing the actual scenes that are going on here in the interrogation, you could kind of get the clear details of what's going on here. Takeyomi walks in the room, he sees Yoriko in a state of sadness, like she's really upset, like she's, you can see the stress on her face. You have Mutsuki, she's just sitting there, you know, Takeyomi, he's like upset, he's like, you could probably see from his expression, he's like, what the fuck you doing, like, let go of her or whatever, and you can see how some of the CCG agents are probably stepping in the way, and then Mutsuki, you can see, starts to smile, it's like, haha, like, laughing or whatever, because, you know, Mutsuki, she wants to harm Toka, and then all of a sudden, you see it to where Takeyomi, his face gets very serious, his fist goes in, and then you hear a snap sound. We don't know exactly what that snap represents. We do know, if you look closely, let's go back a page, Furuta is right behind Takeyomi. We know what Furuta does when he's behind someone. Look what he did to a CCG agent. He put him in the way, and he got stabbed. Got killed. Remember that. So, what's to say Furuta, with his great strength, we know he's a ghoul, he might be able to do something to, you know, Takeyomi. But there is one thing we gotta remember as well. Takeyomi, he is strong. We've seen him snap a ghoul's fucking neck. Like, he just fucking snapped a ghoul's neck, which shouldn't normally be possible. But because of his genes, his genetics, and all that, he's able to do that. So he does have a lot of strength, considerable strength. Still, we don't know exactly what's going on in this. He could be trying to punch a CCG agent to get the fuck out of the way, or he could getting stopped, like someone stopping his fist, maybe Furuta stopping his fist, or let's go one step further. Think about what Furuta said. The people that harbor a ghoul or whatever, they need to be punished. They need to be punished. What's to say that Takeyomi isn't doing a punishment to Yoriko? Now, hear me out, okay? I know Takeyomi doesn't want to hurt his loved one, his wife. He doesn't want to hurt her. And I feel like it's much more believable that he would punch a regular CCG agent, or Furuta, or whoever, Mutsuki, because how much he cares about Yoriko. But what if he put on a ruse, you know, a face or whatever, just to go along with it, just to get Yoriko out of there? Because we don't know exactly what's going on in between. Obviously, there's something being said. Maybe Furuta's saying, or Mutsuki's saying, why she's laughing, like, the only way you can get Yoriko out of here is probably if you punch her hard in the face or something with your full strength. And we do know that he has a lot of strength. Like I said, he snapped a ghoul's fucking neck. He killed a ghoul with his bare fucking hands. So what's to say that maybe that's what Furuta's trying to say, or what Mutsuki's trying to say? The punishment is punch Yoriko as hard as you can. Maybe in the face. Who knows? And maybe that's why his face is acting like that. Think about it. Anyways, with that being said, Kaneki's like, it's a trap. He just burns the letter and says it's a trap. Now, I don't know if Kaneki is going to do anything or not. I don't know. Kaneki's a good-willed person. He is. And what he represents is for both sides, for Ghoul and human alike. So, if he is to let this go and let Yoriko die and just ignore it, it's kind of like he's going against his very message. Think about it. Because he doesn't want to harm humans, and if he's to let someone like Yoriko that was helping out Toka die, it's like he's trying to destroy that bridge. He's destroying the bridge that's being built. He's hurting a person that could help out that bridge to be built. So, he can't just ignore this. But at the same time, though, Kaneki might not believe it. And so we don't really know. I feel like Kaneki, knowing who he is, he might be going alone. Because to keep it to himself. Because he knows what state Toka is in. He'll probably keep it to himself. And he'll do his own thing by himself. Probably without the help of others. So who knows. So, with that being said, that's about it when it comes to this chapter. Talked about the Toka stuff, talked about all the other stuff, so that's about it. Let's conclude it there. So you all have a very, very wonderful day or night wherever you live. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'm very sorry once again for probably being a little bit too long for some. And if you did watch the entire video, I do appreciate it. It really does mean a lot to me. Thank you so much. And once again, also thank you for everyone that supports these videos. Thank you so much for everyone that comments, likes, and all of that. I do appreciate that. Thank you so much, everybody. And you all have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.